Welcome everybody, welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be discussing centre bounce attendances. Centre bounces attendances are crucial for fantasy football as often those are the highest scoring players with a great time in the middle and attending centre bounce. Today we're going to go through a few articles I've got on centre bounces, but let's start with the AFL.com.au one. Last year they were very good at releasing to us each week centre bounce attendances for each side. If you go into the article, it goes down, it tells you their fantasy score, time on ground, and the number of centre bounces that that player attended, which is good fantasy knowledge to have. It's pretty basic and only tells you one round, so we've got a few additional sites that help us out. The first one I'm going to go to is DT Talk. DT Talk is a great resource in general, but here is a centre bounce attendance article put together. It says by Warney, but I think the bulk of the work done here was Bryce Mitchell, who you can follow on Twitter. He does a lot of work with centre bounces and gives you a lot of good information. He's a good follow. And he's done these phenomenal spreadsheets with all the centre bounce attendances for 2020. And if you go down the article, you get a nice coloured chart of all the teams and the percentages of how much the players attended centre bounces for their respective clubs in their respective rounds, which is great. So if you want to give that a download, that's some great info for the 2020 season. Going into 2021, the next one I'll show you is the daily fantasy rankings one, which is very similar. It tells you the same information, but what it was doing last year was it was doing it round by round, and you could see all the rounds at once. So this is something I got onto late last year, which was very handy, and it's just updated. Hopefully they'll keep doing the same throughout this year, and they'll update our centre bounce attendances, and it'll be one I'll be tracking for sure. So make sure it's in your favourites. Now I'll go on with some quick advice for each club and what I think we should be looking out for in the 2021 season. We'll start with Adelaide. Adelaide, we are obviously going to be looking for the Brad Crouch replacement. So we'll have to wait and see. That's probably going to be Haley, but uh, we'll watch that one. Brisbane Lions, I don't see much of a change. The only change I could see for McCluggage or a Berry push in there, but they would look pretty set last year. Under Carlton, two interesting ones at Carlton will be Zach Williams and Sam Walsh to see if they can get some more time at the centre bounces, and obviously if they do, they'll have to push someone out. So that's something else we'll have to watch. Under Collingwood, they obviously lost Adam Treloar, so that's some centre bounce attendance time. Does it just get snapped up by Sidebottom, or do there someone else come in and pick up those ones? So that's one we'll have to watch and wait and see. Essendon brought in Jared Corwell, who they've said is going to be playing inside, so I guess that means he's going to be attending centre bounces, and if so, we're going to have to see who gets pushed out. Will it be Merritt? Merritt only attended centre bounces late last year, so maybe he might get pushed back out of there. We'll have to wait and see. So maybe buyer beware with Zach Merritt. Fremantle, we're just going to have to track and see how much of their young brigade gets in there. Sarong, Brayshaw, and Chera, as opposed to the slightly older brigade like Mundy and Fife. So that's one I'll be tracking to see if Fife does play forward or Mundy gets pushed out into a half forward role, and those guys, the young brigade, get pushed in. But I don't think I'll be starting with those guys based on that. Geelong have got a abundance of midfielders. They're all old this year. Joel Selwood came out and he said that he'd be surprised if everyone plays every game. It's one that's going to be hard to pick. Patrick Dangerfield has been injured in the preseason, so he might just stay forward. It's going to be very hard to predict Geelong, so we're just going to have to wait and see on that data for Geelong. Gold Coast, I don't see much change there. The only one I see is Matt Rowell, who will definitely be playing in the centre. He'll push someone out, but they're not going to be fantasy relevant anyway, so it'll just be the Rowell show there, and that's great for us, and a lot of people have picked him. GWS, an interesting one. Obviously, a lot happening at GWS with terms of midfield. They obviously traded two guys out, which might leave the way for Tom Green, but they still got a host of talent there that loves playing at the centre. And we're just going to have to see who their three favoured ones are going into after round one. It's going to be hard to pick who exactly does those roles. Onto Hawthorn. Hawthorn, I think, are pretty set with the way they do it. I don't think anyone's really going to push at the start of the season for one of those roles, as long as no one's injured. Like if I've been hearing a little bit about Mitchell maybe not being right for round one, so if that's the case, maybe someone gets those centre bounces, but they're pretty set at Hawthorn. They don't really have many guys competing for those positions, so it'll be very similar. Same with Melbourne. We'll go on to Melbourne. I can see a very set midfield at Melbourne. Probably Brayshaw will continue to tease us by not quite getting enough time in that middle and not scoring well enough. So Brayshaw would be stay away. On to North Melbourne. North Melbourne, Ben Cunnington reported the other day that he was training very well, which is good. I can see him attending a lot of centre bounces. Probably Trent Dumont gets kicked out of there. So that's just one we'll have to see, but probably pretty set still at North Melbourne. And of course, they've got a few rookies as well this year that everyone will be tracking. They'll probably just play. I don't know if they'll be playing at centre bounces though. Port Adelaide, I think there'll be no change at Port Adelaide. They're pushing for a premiership, and I think they were onto the right tactics last year, so I don't see any change at Port Adelaide. Richmond, I think we'll see this late season configuration of their centre bounce attendances. I think that'll be pretty close to what they rock out with at the early of the season. We're just going to have to see if they have like injuries here or something. St Kilda, obviously Brad Crouch is going to be available after round three. He'll definitely be playing there. There's no doubts about that. It'll be interesting to see what St Kilda do with their midfield, as it doesn't look quite settled, but we'll just have to wait and see what that looks like. On to Sydney, I think we'll have Parker and Kennedy are for sure. They're going to be in there, but it will be who goes with them that maybe pick up some points there. So there is room for Sydney people to push into the midfield there. Onto West Coast, I think we'll see this early season configuration as long as everyone's fit. I don't know if Yo will be ready to go, but if he is, it'll look like this. And we'll just have to track. Obviously, there is people at West Coast that do well when they push into that midfield, but we're going to have to need to see their round one lineup and what that's going to look like. And then lastly, the Dogs, who everyone is going to be scratching their head at. We've got Beveridge, Madman at the helm for fantasy, who just loves throwing magnets around, and an overstacked midfield with Trelaw coming in. It was already overstacked last year, everyone getting Dunkley, who was playing ruck, and Tim English playing forward pocket, and goodness knows what Beveridge is going to do this year. Who knows? McRae might be playing key position back, or Bontempelli on the wing or something. You don't know. With Beveridge, anything's possible. I think that was their phrase in 2016. Anything's possible, and it definitely is for fantasy with the Bulldogs. Anything is possible. So there are my thoughts, quick thoughts on the centre bounces. It will be one you'll need to track throughout the year to see who is attending those bounces, and if the scores match up, it is definitely something you jump on. Last year we had some great guys like Jai Simpkin, to come off the top of my head, who was playing the centre bounces early, and you're just like, yep, jump on him. Petrarca obviously went in there last year and did really well. Andrew McGrath did the same. There was a few that really got into the centre bounces, increased their score, and I'll be expecting to see the same this year. It's just picking who is likely to do it. So if you like this video today, please slap a like on it. If you want to follow me in the future, subscribe. And if you have someone that you think that I missed from who might attend more centre bounces this year, please put it in the comments below, and I'll talk to you soon.